Welcome back to a new video. I'm going to be using ChatGPT here to show you kind of the process I went through to have the program. If you want to see the program, the training program that I made for myself, you can look on my post on YouTube and you can see exactly what I have. What you could also do, let's see if I'm able to do this. So I'm going to open a new tab. So you see my recommendations. So if you go into here, what you can do, so if you go to my post, you open up that link. Once you're in here, you could copy and paste this whole thing and then paste it into here and then tell it to make adjustments. So that's one thing you could do with ChatGPT, and that would be an easy way to do. But I'm going to open up an old chat that I had, and we're going to look at it and see what we had. So we'll go all the way back up to the front, so I'm not retyping everything. And so I originally tried to use the voice mode, which seemingly worked, but it wouldn't actually like give me the program. It would be like, here it is, but it wouldn't exist in the chat. So the voice mode is good for talking things through, or to just kind of have a verbal conversation. It actually does like communicate pretty well as far as that goes, but it doesn't really create things for you, at least the way that I was using it. Maybe I was using it wrong, but at the top here, I wanted an Olympic weightlifting program that is structured to start tomorrow. So I did this last night and end August 2nd. And I want the block to have a 3-week linear progression block. So that's one tip if you are asking ChatGPT for a program. What I've noticed, if you just ask for like a weightlifting program, it won't necessarily know what kind of progression that you want. So generally having a linear progression is good. So I want to have 3-week linear progression blocks. The first training of the week, I want there to be a block work from above the knee for the snatch and for the clean and push press. The second day should have a snatch balance, front squat plus jerk, front squat and snatch pulls. Day 3, snatch and clean jerk. Day 4, snatch, push, press, jerk from the rack, front squat, snatch, pull. Day 5, power snatch, power clean, and jerk at a light percentage. Day 6, heavy snatch and clean jerk, back squat, clean pulls, which then can be pushed to a heavy deadlift. Day 7, muscle snatches, muscle cleans plus overhead squat. And then let's start by making this a 3-week block. Keep in mind, I'm going to want to create multiple 3-week blocks that are connected and lead to a heavy max day on August 2nd. So in general, that's another piece of advice. You should kind of know, the time frame is kind of useful. You could just make like a 5-week or a 10-week block, and if you don't have a specific date, but you can make a specific date, but that's not really a critical thing. By default, like I didn't tell it any of the weights that I think I'm able to do. So it's going to give me percentages, but very easily I could go in and say, all right, here are the percentages. Here are my numbers for each of these individual lifts. One thing to be careful about, if I were to say that my best snatch at this point is 130, then that would base all of the variations of that off that same number. So that might not be relevant if, for instance, you are maybe really good off the blocks for the snatch. Your actual like top number might be a little bit higher. But using the percentages, at least for me, is fine because it gives me a general idea of where I should be pushing in different sessions. So like 70% here, if I base it off like a 130 block snatch, it gives me about 90 kilos, and that gives me like 97.5. So essentially like 100 kilos. So it gives me a general idea of what I should be going. What was interesting is I never asked for any accessory work, but it kind of threw that in there. So I won't be doing those because I don't have the ability, or I guess a very easy setup to do those at the house. But I actually will be doing some good mornings. But you kind of see this day got changed a little bit, but this is the current session for the day. And so if you kind of have a general idea of what you want your training to look like for the week, giving it as much information as you can is useful for it, because then it will naturally be able to give you percentages, because it will just go and look up stuff and figure out how to stuff. So you can kind of see in general 80% for 3, 90% for 3x3. So it's giving you a general idea. Added planks, which is weird too. Like I said nothing about planks. And it was it was getting weird when I tried to take them out. Like it was just giving me a blank. It was just messing up the thing. Obviously, I'm probably not going to do blanks, but like it's there. So it might add some this and like also jumps and sprints. Like I didn't say anything about jumping and sprinting, but it's in there. And so there. So then once it gave me that, so that was the first week. It says, would you like me to continue formatting for weeks 2 and 3 of those blocks with a linear progression? So plus 5% each week. And then I said, yes, I would like the linear progression for each of the week with a decreasing amount of reps and sets as the intensity goes up. This should be a general rule for programming in general. One thing that I had noticed before is when I had been experimenting with this is that it would increase the intensity in a linear fashion, but the volume would stay exactly the same, which is obviously not possible to do. And so we basically continued with that. Actually decreased actually changed the accessory work a little bit too, but you can see the percentages changed. The reps are the same as well, or mostly the same. I guess we can look at it as a whole. I'm not going to spend too much time on the kind of draft that it had because it ended up changing some stuff here. So then it had some pulls here. Now, how I'm interpreting how it is telling me to do reps is kind of in the classic. I always write the amount of sets first times the amount of reps I'm going to do. I'm assuming that, for instance, it's 2 sets of 1 rep. So that's how I would interpret it, but you could also ask it to set it up in the opposite way. But I'm not trying to, I can interpret it either way. So then this is, so that was week 2 for June with the final intensity. Oh yeah, so this was the week 3. So then you see the percentages are going up. And then so then, yeah, when it had this 3-week block, I gave it the prompt, I would like to generate the next block in a way that you think is appropriate for the goals I mentioned prior. So that would be like related to having that maximum day on August 2nd. So then it did the whole block. This block slightly resets in intensity in weeks 2 of the block, allowing recovery and technical refinement while building to heavier singles by the end. So it does a similar thing. It goes back down to now instead of 70% to 75%. So actually kind of similar to how Seek a Strength program when they have like the kind of 3-week repeating blocks within kind of like a larger block. And I think that's generally like a correct thing to do. So we have front squat plus jerk. It actually says 2 + 1, which I didn't realize it had on there. I hadn't gone into too much depth looking at it every single day of the training. And then second block, doubles there. So like, in my opinion, it's doing a pretty good job of not just keeping the reps all the same. It's allowing some differences as far as reps go as the intensity goes up. Obviously, it's going to have potentially, like this Monday session is normally would be like a Sunday one. So like a really light session. And you see, it doesn't even give me weights for those. So like that would be really light, but like, it didn't really understand that I wanted to do these together. It's not really that important because like a session like this is not a crazy important one. And it's going to have it's going to have errors like that. And you can get caught in the weeds of not once planks by time and jumps and stuff. But let's see, now you're primed for a taper. So then it has like a deload week, keeps all the exercises the same. You could also, so here's what, and then it has the max out day at the very end. Ashley wants a complete off day the day before. So it kind of treats this as like a competition type prep, which is kind of what I was hoping for. And it actually gives you the documents. So it won't put it into a Google format. So what I did is as I downloaded it, you just upload it into Google Drive, and then you can change the formatting to it. So once you're in it, then the formatting stays there. I believe it's still, it does say .co or .docx, so it still says .x, but it is a Google form. So it's just a naming thing. I didn't change on it. but it does like create that document for you. And include, we said that, deload max. And then, yeah, I said include everything. And I even asked it, take out the planks and the jumps, but it didn't take out the planks and the jumps, I don't think. Maybe it did. I think it ended up, yeah, I think it ended up actually taking them out. So let's go down here. Then I did ask it, I was curious, what it thought of its own program. I said, does the program adhere to logic and research-driven approach? So then it provides evidence for its claim. The program you outlined and that I built with you adheres to logical, research-driven principles of Olympic weightlifting. Here's how. Linear progression by block. So each week block increases in intensity about 5% per week. The volume decreases as intensity rises. A well-supported model in sports science, and it gives you actually examples of research models. So Bompa's periodization and Medvedev's, I don't know, models. This approach balances overload with fatigue management. Second thing is high frequency, 7 days a week. So it's common in elite and Eastern European programmings. Examples, Bulgarian, Kazakhstan. You're rotating stress intelligently. So high CNS days, CNS lift days, day 3 and day 6 are followed by technical or lowered CNS days, day 7, etc. Each variation has a purpose. Muscle lifts on Monday to help refine bar path and bar speed. Strategic lift selection. So the block word above the knee is early in the week, improves power position, limits fatigue. Snatch balances, push presses, jerks on the blocks, develop overhead confidence and stability. Pulls peak at the end of the week, progressing from positional to maximal up to 115%, aligning with pull strength and development patterns. Muscle lifts and overhead press on day 7, reinforce bar control and upper body development without heavy loading. Then taper and max week. Volume drops sharply starting on July 29th. The intensity remains moderate to high, 75 to 85% to preserve neuromuscular readiness. One full rest day before maxing is aligned with top coaches' taper strategies, Abajeos and Takano, which that's pretty cool. That's, it's using that research there, or their, ideas. I don't know how much research Abajeov actually did. Load management, front and back squats alternate between volume and intensity across weeks. The plan avoids stacking high fatigue elements on consecutive days. No heavy pulls right after heavy squats. Deadlift loads and any form of heavy clean pulls are tapered into singles, reducing fatigue before August 2nd. Potential adjustments. So this was what I was originally interesting. So day 7 rest options. If recovery becomes an issue on day 7, it could become an active recovery day. Rep max days on top of, or one top set per week at RP9 in the front and back squat could auto-regulate strength stimulus while preserving structure. So actually it's like, have a top single of, pretty close to a maximal single each week in the front and the back squat to kind of give you that benchmark of what you have each week, which I actually think is a good idea now that I'm kind of like rereading it. I didn't ask it to include that in because I don't generally use RP, but I kind of get what the idea of what it's suggesting is. It says, in conclusion, this plan would be considered scientifically sound and practically effective for an experienced lifter preparing for a peak day. Let me know if you'd like a data tracking sheet. And I had originally asked for like a data tracking sheet. There's just blank. And yeah, so that part got kind of weird. So can you take out the jumps from the planks in the program? So I believe that is the one. I changed the name of it up here for this one, but yeah, it actually, I think, took it out there. And then I asked for the tracking thing that got messed up. So when it gets kind of confused or messed up like this, and then it's going to keep drawing from that previous information. And so what I did is reattach the program to it. And then I said, reattaching the program, so we're both looking at the same thing. What do you think about this exercise selection? I'm built well for pull. So this is also important to communicate, your own strengths and weaknesses. So this would be something that like weightlifting AI, when you did that, it kind of asked about that. But I have a feeling that it kind of acts in this sort of way. So it's like, if you have this weakness, then, it makes this recommendation. But essentially, I asked it, or I prompted it, I'm reattaching the program, so we're both looking at the same thing. What do you think about the exercise selection? I built well for pulls based on my body proportions. I have a general weakness with my upper body strength. My general weakness with my technique is having a weaker jerk relative to my clean. My front squat is relatively weaker than my back squat, but not to a, I kind of mistyped that, but not to a significant degree. in the snatch, the bar crashing on me in the bottom, missing out in front are the two main issues I have. Generally, my speed under the bar is lower than it needs to be. So I thought that was a pretty fair assessment of my own listing or my own issues with lifting. And this says, thanks for reattaching the program and sharing your backhand. Given your body structure, technical limitations, and strength profile, here's a targeted assessment of your current plan and what I would refine or emphasize. So it's giving recommendations based on what I told it. So if you want those recommendations, you have to be honest with yourself, but also kind of understand. This is where like having the experience doing the weightlifting AI, you kind of know like what kind of questions are relevant to answer for it, even if it's not directly asking, but would actually have impacts on programming. So strength's good, pulling proportions, likely stronger at the floor and through extension, back squats greater than front squat, normal, not problematic. So it didn't really understand what I was getting at with that, but it actually, at least with this sentence, weaknesses, upper body pressing, limits jerks, overhead strength, jerks weaker than clean, points to overhead strength, timing, drive, speed on the bar crashes, forward misses, slow turnover. And I actually didn't say this, but I mean, that is true as well. When you're slow underneath, the turnover is slow. Snatch receiving position, instability, lack of precision at the catch. So what works well? Improve the second and third pull, overhead positioning and support. So it's giving with the exercise feedback, what things will work well for what I've selected or what I worked with the AI to select. Improve the jerk support. So keep the push press from the rack, front squat plus jerk. Consider adding 1 to 2 sets of press in the split or the dip in the jerk to reinforce split timing overhead confidence. Speed under the bar / snatch catch instability. Keep the block snatch and the muscle snatch help. Add snatch from power position hip. Drop on day 1 or 2, tall snatch or snatch drops occasionally on day 7 for sub work. Optional snatch plus overhead set combo at lighter work. So just like technical work that you could add in. I obviously, or I have talked about not liking hip snatches. I think it trains bad technique, even though you can kind of use it to work faster in the bar. I think it just is a net negative. And same with cleans from the hip. I think they're just terrible to do. But like tall snatches, I think are fine. And if you're doing it with like the bar, then I don't think it's that big of a deal. But upper body strength, overhead press, and push press support this. Adding a second stimulus on day 7, closed grip press or Z press, which I never looked up Z press, but I guess I'm not really too concerned about it. Essentially just more pressing. Front squat lagging, you're already squatting 3 times a week, front twice, back once. Volume intensity are solid, but consider a single higher volume front squat day early in the week. 5 sets of 3 at 80 to 85% to boost capacity without fatigue overload. So that was actually one change it recommended for the front squats. So high impact tweaks, add tall snatches or snatch from the power position weekly. Include press in the split or jerk supports on Friday or Monday. I think jerk supports are actually like, it's a good exercise. It's just obviously like at the house, I don't have an ability to set that up. And it's a really, I would say a difficult thing to set up, but you just need like a squat rack or you need like the structure to actually do it. Optional Z press or a second overhead press on day 7, slightly increase the squat volume. And so then can you make a modified version with these updates built in? So then it modified them in and added those exercises in. So that's, what came into here. So it had like on the first day, some tall snatches, which honestly, would be a good warm up just to do. And then press in the split and has Z press. So I'm not really even sure what a Z press is. I'm glad you like the updated plan. All right, so what I plan on continuing to do as we get towards the end of this chat is I actually asked, like, are you going to be able to remember this? And if I send you what I did, make adjustments and stuff like that. It basically said, yes, it updated its memory. And said, like, if you reference the program that we made, it will be able to go back and have that. And so what I recommend is not necessarily to distrust the AI to remember it, but to always obviously keep your program. And then when you're communicating with it, just paste it back into the chat. So that's going to be my plan is to, hey, do you remember this program? Paste it in. Here's what I did on day 1. And potentially what I'm going to also experiment with is as I write things down in my notebook to take a picture of it and paste it into here. Because what you can do with this addition thing is you can add photos in files. So that makes it really easy when you're adding stuff into there. So it did say updated the save memory. So, I mean, the assumption is that it would be able to memorize things, and that's like it's saved over here on the chats, but those are just the most recent chats that I have. So it's interesting. I mean, I honestly like how the program is structured, and that was really what I went through with that. I'll move myself over here so you guys can see it. So I like the general structure, and what I was hoping to get was precisely what I got, which is just percentages, rep schemes, and stuff like that. But the exercise selection, I actually, think it did a pretty decent job. But as I go, like for an example, like the snatch block work today, doing that at like 90 kilos would be about 70%, and then this would be 75% is like 98 kilos based on the 130 block snatch. So like I'm going to be doing those reps. But then ideally, maybe you push it up a little bit, but being able to communicate that precision to the AI once you complete that session, I think will be interesting to see how it reacts with that. So if this interested you, please let me know. And let me know if you want me to do updates, maybe like once a week. I can, post all my workouts that I did inside the AI, and then it will update based on what I have done and then make adjustments, I would assume. And then I can kind of go over, what things change with that. But this will be kind of the basic reference thing. So I will kind of keep this here the same. I might change the title, but I will keep this as that link that's in my post. And then as it updates things, then maybe things will change with that. But I like, this to be a general thing that stays the same. I don't want to, change each of the days, because then if I want to run this again, then I have that there. But with that being said, that's going to be it for this one. So appreciate Tony having some interest in this. I was probably going to make the video regardless, because it is something that interests me as far as programming goes. But yeah, ChatGPT, and I'm sure a lot of other AI systems can kind of organize data. I think at least with the ChatGPT, it seemed like it used some research-based ideas to program, which was interesting. And as long as you give it a lot of information of what you want and how you want progressions to go, then you can get something that's tailored to what your needs are. And I think that comes to just having a background knowledge yourself of how programming should look and how good programs do look. If you really wanted to be, I don't want to say lazy, but if you really wanted to take the guesswork out of it, you could find a program that you like, maybe one that's free, and post it into the AI and then have it adjust from that. So that's something else that you could do. But also you have this one here if you want to copy and paste that as well. But with that being said, that's it for this one. Take care. Peace.